In person, you get to evaluate the chemistry a little bit more. However, online, you might be able to, at least early on, evaluate the compatibility. So hearing that the online dating are less, satisfying, but more stable, to me.
Yo, B, let's go. You may have seen the clip and maybe heard word of mouth, yet another podcast. Man, what could it be about? Is it truth or opinion? A couple of contradictions. We're here to challenge tradition and twist your vision. So we set on a mission to bring you rebel wisdom.
Welcome back to another episode of Rebel Wisdom. I'm Julian, here with my co-host B. And today we're gonna get into relationships a little bit. But more so, it's going to be how we get into these relationships, right? I always think it's good when we have topics that apply to a vast majority of people. And I think, a lot of people, the vast majority are in relationships. We're in a relationship, so in a relationship, are in a relationship. So we're going to give you a take on relationships. But as we like to do, analyzing traditional takes on things, typically, we're going to look at the more modernized dating, i.e., the digital dating world, in comparison to the good old fashioned meeting somebody in person. So, B, if you would be so kind to tell us, you're married, correct?
Yep.
Did you meet your wife digitally or in person?
No,
The whole story,
not,
everything, just
yeah.
like,
I mean, not just my wife, but every single relationship I had was from meeting someone in person.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
I've had like interactions with
Yeah.
females online that matched on Tinder, Bumble, the dating app,
Whatever. Yeah.
but it never personally. It just never led to
Right.
a long-term relationship.
Ooh, okay. That's good. I like you. You opened the question up a bit, so I'll do the same. Yeah. With the exception of my current partner, I have also met everyone in person. Which, and back in the day when I think what Tinder was probably not the first, but like I wasn't the first big, yeah, right. You would think, right? Like match dating app, whatever you want to call it.
Because at least to have like Mass.com and
Right.
you read the ad real
Right. Forever. So, I had that back in the day, and then nothing ever really happened with it. Like yourself, was in relationships over the years. And then until most recently, I had to re-download like the Bumble, the Tinder. And the new one that I know is very popular for those yet that might not know, when I entered singlehood and then was talking to my friends about like, yo, what am I gonna do? They were like, man, you need to get on Hinge. And I found success on Hinge. So that's where
What I still don't understand what makes one app better than the other. Like I feel like they're like around the same people in all these apps.
That's a fantastic point. So, some apps try to curate like certain vibes. So when I was in college, I never had this one. I don't even think I've ever seen it open or like the interface of it. But have you ever heard of an app called The League?
The League,
The League. I think I don't, I mean, I'm sure it's still around. I don't think it like discontinued the app. But it was this app for like very put together, I guess, people. Like you had to, and nobody, if you use The League, don't quote me on this, because again, I heard this secondhand from like two of my friends that were on it. But you might have had to show like proof of your degree, proof of like you had to show
interesting.
that you had like certain wickets in life met. So it created a very, you know what I mean, like a certain demographic of people.
Interesting.
And now, like counter to that, Tinder being one of the OG apps, like it doesn't market itself like this, but again, the social narrative is like if you're just trying to hook up. Which,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad for Tinder, but how it is for their business. But like that's the narrative surrounding it. But to your question, I think it's just so Bumble, right? Like that was the app known. Like the woman has to message first.
I
So
thought they
that's like
changed everything.
they did change it. They didn't change it. But I'm just saying that was one distinguishing factor. So
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? I don't know. Little stuff like that. Also, I heard this stat a couple years ago. Don't know if it's outdated. This is probably a quick Google search. But I always thought it was fascinating. It said the age was either 22, 23, or 24. But like by the time we'll call it 24, most people have met who they're going to marry by the
Oh,
age
I've
of
seen that.
24. And I always thought that was so fascinating because like and by that quote, like that means you've met them in person. Like you've met this person in some capacity by the time you're 24. And I heard that a couple years ago. So again, that could have shifted. But that always stuck in the back of my head. Like I am not married. And I'm like, I could have met like the person I'm gonna marry, like I could already know. That's just kind of interesting to think about.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so that was always interesting to wrestle with.
'Cause
Yeah.
there's so many, like, high school sweetheart marriages or, like,
Yes.
get or, like, not even from high school sweetheart, but, like, all
Just know it.
because they yeah, it's so much easier to strike up a conversation, and, I mean, you go through college, there's a lot of relationships there,
Mhm.
and then, I mean, as you're oh, I don't know. Shoot, I
What?
haven't been in the dating game in so long.
Yeah. I did about it.
I'm trying to remember, but it was so
Or
long.
bro, I can speak for you. Although I mean I haven't been in it long, but yeah, it's I mean to that point when like right when we were in Japan together, was out there for a couple years. When I got back, it couldn't have been more than a couple months. I like rekindled with like a woman I used to talk to back in high school. And you know what I mean? Like we already had a great like friendship and I hadn't talked to her in years, but we were always cool. We talked for a
One
little
day.
bit and it was like when we're in a relationship because it's comfortable. You know them. It's that already that pre-existing friendship. So I think in a lot of ways it can make sense. Now it didn't work out and she's now married, but it like a lot of people are in that situation.
Yeah,
So
no, I feel that.
I think there is something to be said to meeting people in person. Or like not even so I think there's twofold with meeting people in person. There's people you already know, like just from growing up from your past, that you can foster a relationship with. And then there's going out with the intention of meeting people in person. You know what I mean? Like I'm about to go
Okay, okay, okay.
out to I'd say the club. It's the first thing that comes to mind, but like the bar or wherever people go to meet people out. So I think there's like the two ways people traditionally meet people in person.
Yeah, I watched a video clip on YouTube recently, and they were talking. It was a clip from the 1980s. It was 80 something,
Go back.
and they went to a mall, right?
Mall, yeah.
And then they're interviewing all these girls. They're like, "Hey, why did you come to the mall?" And they probably like edited it out to show a message, but like all of the girls were like, "Oh, we're here to meet boys. Oh, we're here to meet a boy, get a boyfriend. We're here to meet new people."
How old did they look?
It's like,
What age generally we talking about?
I mean, they look like
Early 20s?
yeah, they look like late teens at the youngest
Okay,
to
okay.
like late 20s at the
Sorry,
oldest.
that's important. Okay, continue.
But it's like it's so fascinating, like how much that has changed in our lifetime. Because I mean, like we're around the same age, and I'm sure people can relate. Like, if you're older and a little bit younger, but I was told growing up that you're not supposed to talk to strangers online, and now to 2024, my like imagination of these like people dating is they're like pretty much only trying to find the other, I guess, sex. If you're a dude looking for girls, girls looking for dudes online on these dating
Yeah,
apps.
yeah.
And it is literally 180 shifted. I guess that's the reveling point is which I don't want to say which one is better. I mean, I feel like that's going to be person to person. There's too many factors considered to give a definitive, hey, this is better and this one's not better. But definitely interesting to see, some things that we haven't really thought about, I guess, to say, hey, maybe, maybe the traditional way sometimes better because for these reasons. Whereas, if you're on the dating apps, you have these advantages that you just cannot get in person.
Right. Yeah. And that's what like I think would be interesting to explore because I agree. I think there's inherent I think there's inheritively advantages of both, but dude, I didn't even think about the point you made. Like you're typically told, like, hey, don't talk to strangers in person when you're real little. But yeah, like online, it's like yeah, if you don't know them, like don't talk. And now you're literally encouraged to talk to these people.
Yeah. But look at I mean look at today. If you go to the mall, like I've been to the mall a couple, maybe like 4 or 5 times in the past year. But either I go with my friends, or if I had to pick up something, which was once, like I have my headphones in. I'm not trying to talk to anyone. I just want to go there, pick up my stuff.
Bro,
Tap
you're
into
also married, so your mindset is way different.
yeah, but like who's not? If you're walking by yourself, who's not walking? around with their headphones.
Somebody else trying to
On
get
the
all of that.
I guess. But is that how people wanna be approached? I don't know.
Yeah. So, oh, that's an interesting point too. So we're definitely going to get into kind of comparing and contrasting, right, in person versus online. But you just made me think of something that I also think is interesting, which I think, I don't know if this is a societal shift, but something that could be driving people more towards online as well. So obviously we're in the age like well into the uh technological era, age of digitalization, like for sure. But I don't know if it's just things that media or like news outlets portrayed. Do you get a sense, and I'm not a woman, so I can't like speak for women, that maybe people like I get a sense that there's like a movement against, I don't want to say women not wanting guys to approach them, or they're like fearful maybe, or I don't know. Like there's a danger, a safety aspect to it. Like back in the day, if you were, and this is back in the day, probably like before our generation, I feel like people were more free with like going up to each other, or it wasn't, you weren't always on edge about like, is a fight gonna break out, or is this person trying to threaten me? Whereas now there's more school shootings and more like you just can't trust people as much, which might lend itself to people not being able to interact in person as more and have to go. You
Yeah.
know what I
I mean,
mean?
there's definitely creepy I'm gonna say, creepy, mostly dudes, and shoot, oh my god, I wish we gotta do a part 2 of this with a female
Oh
perspective,
my God.
because I've heard that I mean, I definitely see that too where, like, all of the it's like the slide in someone's DMs
Right,
style
right.
rather than going up to them in person,
Mm-hmm.
which I mean, that was, like, starting to become a thing when I was in middle school with do you remember did you use AIM?
I did it.
AIM?
My best friend did. I was always like looking at him. No, but I know
You
what
know
you
what I'm
mean.
talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like, you just come back from school, get off the school bus, go inside, and you get on AIM and see who's online, and it's like, "Hey, I like you." And they were like and they were like, "Ugh, gross." I was like, "Oh, that was my friend." You know? Sorry, that was my fr but so it used to be like that, and then I've heard or I read a lot of comments online where girls would be like, "Hey, like, these guys are not approaching me anymore in public, but this is so
Mhm.
sad, like, blah, 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 blah." But to the guy's defense, like, even if girls like, even if there are girls out there that was like, "Hey, I wanna be approached by dudes in public," majority of them, I feel like because of the danger aspects of it that you talked about, prefer not to be approached. I
Right.
think that's my, like, understanding of it. I could be totally wrong, because I mean, girls always wanna play hard to get,
Yeah, right.
and so, yeah, I don't know.
Yes. It's a double-edged sword, right? Yeah, like women want to be approached, but then when it's the right guy, the right kid, if it's the wrong guy, it's like it's disgusting, or I feel threatened. But then guys, it's like I'm not gonna approach because I want to be respectful. Then you're mad that yeah, not a guy's approach. So it's just this negative loop, I think, that gets created. Which here we are. We bring it online. And I'll also say I think we all can agree that guys approach women more, I'll say in real
Mhm.
life. But the internet also might be like kind of an equalizer where like women may feel more empowered or more comfortable, like sliding in a dude's DM or just commenting, you know what I'm saying? Like it might lend itself to both sides rather just being so one-sided. So I think that could also be an interesting aspect of the online dating, which just opens up a whole nother, like if only guys aren't doing the approach, like
Yeah,
it's a whole new world right there.
and it's I obviously, the very extremes of any example in any topic is always gonna make it into social media and typical media and whatnot, but those are the stuff I see, and I see the people like, the girls especially, or, like, only girls I've seen, like, they talk about they want this, that, and that, and this, and that, and to for a guy, for them to even consider them dating. And you seen the video, right? I think you showed me
Yeah. I need a
the
guy.
trust fund
Yeah,
baby
6 5,
finance.
blue
Yeah,
eyes, trust fund, finance,
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
and then you think like, dude, they are delusional.
Like
The
0.2%. It's
I mean, if
crazy.
you're pretty much saying you don't like you're fine to wait or not be married.
Right.
And that's like, I mean, good for them, I guess. That's
Yeah.
their choice. But I don't think that's I feel like rather than waiting for that, if you get into marriage that like you got to work on and be happy and eventually because you build the relationship together from the ground up, you're gonna be happier and you get to, experience so many great things.
All right, life coach, I hear you. That's a whole nother topic. Yeah,
Dude,
no, it's true.
I literally talk about with Megan, that's my wife. Like we always talk about we're like, dude, I cannot imagine going back to the dating scene right now. Like, what do you do? Do you like, do you have to come up with, clever pickup lines? Is that a thing still?
Yeah.
Or, you know, and like going on a first date?
Yeah. Well, lucky for you guys, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But no, yeah, dude, that's a good point. So, right, and in this, there's obviously there are good things that can come from dating in person or meeting somebody in person, and we can name a few because we'd be foolish to neglect that there aren't positives from meeting somebody in person. But we just really want to highlight that the digital dating is growing, but why it can be of value. So I mean, just to name like one thing that sticks out, I think is maybe authenticity for meeting people in person. I think is one of those things. Even in the professional world, at least I personally value like when people are just real and they're like their true selves. I think that's professionally attractive, like personally attractive. I just think that's great all around. And that is something that you really can get if you meet somebody in person or you've already known them. You get that authentic personality, which sure somebody can put on a facade or like try to act different, but it won't be sustainable if you continue to see them, and it's much harder to do in person. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Whereas like online, I mean we all know the catfish. I think there was like an MTV show Catfish like years back where it was literally that was the whole premise of the show. People that go on dates and they like expose people who are like pretending to be somebody online. They show up, they look completely different. But not even just a look, like you can build a fake persona. Like you can say you like hobbies you don't like. You can say you look how you don't say your job's what it's not. You know what I mean? So again, I think one of the biggest pieces, at least for me personally, and I think a lot of people appreciate is authenticity, meeting somebody in person. You had any like big things like that you really appreciate about having those in person interactions?
Yeah, because at least everyone I had a long-term relationship with is I didn't just go up to them randomly on the street and then we started talking and we started
Right, right,
like
right,
I knew them before through work or school or some way, shape, or form.
right, right, right.
So when I like showed interest in a romantic relationship, like I kind of knew what I was walking into, right? Obviously, you don't know all their crazy side, and they don't know
Yeah,
my crazy side,
yeah.
but to a certain extent, like their sense of humor, their work
Right.
ethic, somewhat over their hobbies, and I think those things are more important to know before you start dating than like shoot, I don't know, because I feel like you can also do that information gathering
Yeah.
online, but it's just not. I'm trying to use a different word, but I can't find a better word than what you use, which is authentic.
Mhm.
Like you're really kind of. I feel like it's harder to put on a front in person than
Yeah.
online. It's just so much easier.
Right, right, right.
You can have ChatGPT type the replies for you these days.
Dude, seriously, which is also kind of scary, but like you really can. And I think kind of like what we're talking about, the authenticity, but like you mentioned, comparing hobbies or humor, etc., speaks to the chemistry pieces. People know like how do you guys relate, and do you have that organic chemistry, which you can't get on a dating app directly, I don't think. At least not from an assessment of a profile. Typically, I see the people I'm viewing, I see their profiles. Okay, got a picture, got some little quotes, hi, what you like to do, yada yada. They see me, but that doesn't lend to chemistry. Now, once we start to chat, we might get a little, I might be able to see their chemistry, but again, I would say that it doesn't compare to in person. But you can get that some extent of that online. Um, but I think something that's similar, but maybe not the same is like how compatible you are, which you also can get a good assessment of compatibility in person. But what I think is unique about the online dating, and these are the like nuanced things I think maybe overlooked, is that in person you can like evaluate compatibility, but online you can like filter compatibility almost. So it's like in person, like you have to meet them. Now I'm assessing the chemistry compatible. When I know people that like hiking, running, reading, basketball are more likely to be maybe compatible with me. So I online I can be like, hey, I want somebody that likes hiking, reading, basketball, this. And you're just so you can almost get kind of right to the chase better and with more people. Like
Yeah.
get
What
way more people. So it's like,
the idea sounds nice, but I don't like that just from personal experience. Cause like
mhm.
my wife, I I would never,
Yeah.
ever have imagined that I would marry well, so she's white,
Mhm.
and I just never in my life thought that I was marry a white person because I grew up in Japan for most of my life, and I was always I mean, I think it's like I don't know that a saying or the stat or something, but I always thought about, like, you like girls that are similar to your mom in a way.
Yeah, that yeah, I don't know if it yeah, but you will
Well,
always hear that for sure. Yeah.
and then I just always thought that because I was only into, like, not even Asian girls, like, Japanese girls,
Yeah.
in very particular, right?
Mhm.
And, like, I mean, I don't say ever because I had various races of, girlfriends, but I just never in a million years I thought I was gonna marry a white person.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm not saying it in a bad way.
No, that's your
It just
yeah, no.
so because of that, I don't think like having these filters on is like you might miss something that you can really, look into.
But that's the thing, you don't have
And
to turn the filter on. So you just don't have that.
yeah, you're right. But then
Yeah.
if you have a filter, you're like, okay, like you're gonna be incentivized to use it.
Okay.
And at least on the online dating space, you are one swipe away from finding that right perfect person. And you have like pretty much you have unlimited swipes, right? I think there's a cap or yeah, I don't know, like, but you get the idea. Like every single day you can swipe so many, and it just seems like the numbers never run out as long as like you're in a big, metropolitan area. So even if you find someone that you were, let's say, 99% compatible,
Okay.
let's just say in the scenario,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
You would say, based on divorce rates and whatnot, that would be a pretty damn good match,
Mhm.
right? But then because you know that you have unlimited number of swipes, you're like, oh, why not just go for the 100? So I think that's just creating unnecessary barriers that
Ooh.
you don't need to have, and that creates a little, distortion of reality where like it and traditionally everyone knows that, I mean like you date for ultimately to get married, right? Or at least majority of the romantic relationships are that way.
Right.
And it's those relationships are fostered and worked on,
Mhm.
not and even if you match all this like
Yeah,
if you match all this criteria that you put in yourself, and like personality is half of it.
yes.
And if it doesn't match it, like it I don't it just
Mm.
I don't see that as like a logical option. Like
Okay.
unless you really don't like if you're like, "Hey, I just cannot I don't find this particular type of girls attractive,"
Right, right.
then sure.
Yeah.
Like that might be to, just stop wasting time, but
Right.
are you wasting time? Like it's one less swipe which will take 0.3 seconds, right?
Yeah. Okay, so
Uh,
I think you brought up at least two interesting points that I pulled out from that. One is the filter, like, kind of could be a barrier. So like you could be limiting yourself, which you have the choice to disable it. But you're saying that if like that setting exists, you'd be more inclined to use it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah. And some of these, you got to pay more for certain stuff. So like sometimes it's disincentivized by that. Like I'm not paying for more, but I think you make a point. But also you give the example of like because you have so many options that it'll be harder to settle because you're like, right, I got this great person, but like maybe I can find a little better. It's just a couple swipes away. What's that like? Not analysis paralysis, but when you like have so many options you can't choose. Let's say the floating or something. There's a term for it. You have like going to a candy store and you have so many candy options. You're like, I can't pick one, or you always want better. But anyways, I'll buy that. I'll buy that too. I think there's an element of self-discipline that has to come into play. But nonetheless, you can be tempted by the volume that's available digitally. But I think that also can come into play in person too. Like if you're going out and you meet somebody, right? Like you meet somebody, oh, this is cool. But you go out that weekend and you're just out at a mall, I don't know, wherever, and you're looking around and you're like, oh, well, there's some attractive people here. Well, shoot, maybe I can do a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, so I think
Hmm.
those cancel out because also in real life, there's not infinite people. There's a number of people on the planet,
But
but
you have in real life, you have to spend effort to get to know them
right. Yes, true.
rather than so
Yeah,
there's a
okay,
little bit
I
more relationship building already built in naturally.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Okay, I'll buy that for $1.
But I when you said, it's like you can pay for that to do X
Mm-hmm.
certain feature, that kind of reminded me, but my buddy at work, he recently became single and then we went to Japan together for a work trip.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were talking about the dating game with he's on all the apps now, right?
Yeah.
And then he was telling me how like how expensive to you go from the basic plan to whatever tiered plan. I just looked up Tinder, but apparently there's like the regular Tinder,
Yep.
and there's Tinder Plus,
Yep.
there's Tinder Gold,
Oh.
there is Tinder Platinum,
Oh.
and there's a Tinder Select, which is an invite only
Hey, I'm
thing, I guess. I don't know what you have to I don't know what you have to do to meet that criteria to be selected, but
to give your.
it says, I mean, it's a Google search, so I could be wrong, it could be updated, but the idea is still the same. It says Tinder Plus costs $8 a month, which is like unlimited likes, unlimited rewinds, ability to change your location, incognito mode, and no ads. And then I'm sure that obviously as it gets more expensive, it gets better and better, but you have Tinder Gold, that's $25 a month,
Ooh.
and Tinder Platinum is $30 a month, which I guess, I mean, that can definitely add up. Because that's just Tinder, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to do the same thing on Bumble, Hinge, I don't know, I heard other apps, Coffee Meets Bagel or something like that.
Yep. I heard.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could definitely be costly, and
Mhm.
if you try to get somewhat of a tier out of the tier plan for 3 different apps, that could easily be like 50, 75, $100 a month to maintain these,
You're right. Yeah.
I guess,
Yeah.
like future relationship building.
You're right. Very good point. The financial piece. Whereas it's going out dating. I mean, sure, it costs to like go out. Maybe depending on where you're going, it might cost to get in somewhere, or certainly cost to go on physical dates.
Yeah, like I feel like the cost of dating is kind of expensive too, because like once you get to know someone and like you're in a serious relationship, like you can be like, hey, let's save money, whatnot. But like you don't want to lead with. I'm guessing you don't want to lead with that. Be like, hey, I'm a very frugal person. Let's just go to Chipotle for lunch or for our date.
But see, okay, you opened up a great point here. That like expectation piece. Well, first off, that goes into the authenticity, which we kind of touched on, and in some ways, like things meeting in person, you can't lie about, like style, height, hair, color, whatever. You get body language, all that stuff, which you can't get online. But even that, like the personality things, I think that favors online dating because again, we talked about the filter and the compatibility, but you can set these. I think expectations is the word I'm getting at here. This is a big word in this conversation because think about how hard it is to set an expectation up front in person vice online, right? You meet somebody first or second time, you're not gonna come out of the gates with like you said, like, hey, I'm pretty frugal. I only go to these places. Like, you're going to try to seem outgoing and you're going to try to maybe spoil them a little bit. Whereas on a profile, you can just list it. You can be witty with it. I don't spend anything but time with you or something like, or you can just say like, hey, I'm a frugal guy that lives in blah, blah, blah. It promotes your expectations. It's easier. It's more natural to list it online. It's kind of more part of it. It fits the profile like setting. Like you going up to somebody and be like, hey, I'm this. I expect these things. They're going to be like, what? Like, I don't even know you. But online, it's kind of acceptable, right? Like
I can see that.
Get your expectations out there, which again acts as a filter because somebody's gonna read it and be like, "Oh, I'm not interested in this guy." And you never have to worry about her. Or somebody might be like, "Oh, I'm frugal too." Like, swipe right. Like, "Oh, you're cute." Like, let's see what's up. So that's why I think like from a filter standpoint, again, of these like compatibility expectation, I think that's huge. And to that point, I recently saw a quote from, I think he's a counselor. Granted, it was just a guy speaking on Instagram, but he noted that he had empirical data that backs this. But I thought this was interesting. He said, divorce is not, the leading cause of divorce is not infidelity, finances, or like a serious death of a child, or whatever. Although those are all big topics and like very serious. But he said it is uncommunicated expectation. That is the leading, which seems kind of ambiguous. I don't know how you like quantify uncommunicated expectations. But nonetheless, right, so it's a fun concept to play with. And I think that can make sense. Like, even if finances was like the leading cause, if it was because you guys never talked about and you never communicated that, like, hey, my expectation is that, we have this joint bank account and you don't spend more than $200 every 2 weeks or every month. Like, you just let her spend more. And then one day you're like, look, you've been spending too much every month. Like, I cannot live like this. But you never communicated that. So again, just to reiterate, he said that the leading cause of divorce is uncommunicated expectations. I was like,
it's like the catch-all. It's like
it is very much catch-all.
But that makes sense. I could
yeah, right. But the point I'm trying to tie it to is that's when you're already in it, when you're committed, right? Marriage. Reel it back to the app, which again is harder to do in person. You can communicate your expectations from right away. So it mitigates you having to, right, you're not going to put everything out there on your profile, but it mitigates a little bit you having to say certain things down the line because you've already communicated this expectation from the jump, which I think is like an attractive feature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's drawing a bit of a lofty conclusion, but I do stand firm, and I think people are more likely to communicate more expectations on a profile, online, or whatever.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see. I see there's like a Reddit page for these 10 like crazy online profiles, and I see a lot of them. It's like, if you don't meet these, blah 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 blah. Like, don't even. Yeah, I think that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that sounds very much one size fits all type of thinking. But yeah, it all goes back to like expectations, intentions. Like, most profiles say like, hey, I'm looking. I think this is a great example. Looking for a long-term relationship with somebody, just looking for friends, looking for a short-term relationship. Like, it's right there. When you walk up to somebody, you see a cute girl, like, oh, what's up? I'm Julian. Hey, I just want to let you know I'm looking for a short-term relationship.
Yeah.
How creepy is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of, but on the profile, that's expected. It's normal. I think it helps. Now,
I think the setting matters too, because how you said that, like, I imagine like a public place, you go up on a person, but you can, without even saying that, if you're at a club drinking and grinding up on like random people, and then you guys start, hooking up, and then you go back home, and that's kind of like already expected outcome. You're just looking for a one night stand type of thing, and then you move on.
okay.
I think the setting. No, setting matters. So I don't want to say it's like, like online versus.
Okay. So what about like it? Okay, so I see what you're saying. Like, in that setting, the expectation might be different. But even like, let's say I meet somebody in a coffee shop. There's a nice young lady. She's getting a coffee. Cool. I walk up to her. I mean, you could easily be like, like, hey, you seem very attractive. I wanted to approach you. I would like to like take you on another date, whatever. Like that could be your expectation. I want to take you on another date, or that's my intention. But that's a very short-term intention. Whereas again, the profile is talking about like holistically, big picture. What do you like in this phase, in these next couple months? I'm only looking for a short-term, or I'm only looking for a friend, or I am looking for a long-term relationship, which is not something I think in any setting, club, coffee shop, meeting, walking down the street, like you're gonna see somebody and be like, hey, I'm looking for this.
Yeah. Well, I see what you're saying. I don't know if it's good or bad. That's the thing that I'm trying to wrestle with.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a good point too. Like maybe what I'm saying only lends to people that are looking for like more serious situations. If you are just looking for fun or short-term situations, maybe it's equally beneficial to go out. But I would argue maybe not, because if you are just looking for some short, quick, again, volume, you can find just statistically, like if I meet 2 people in person and I'm only trying to have fun, cool. I have 2 potential shit. If I'm online, I can talk to 15 people today, and
If you're lucky, though.
yeah, but I'm increasing my odds though, because I can talk to more. You know what I mean? Like on an app or
I don't agree with you there, because I've had more success going up to someone in
you.
person.
That's you.
Yeah. So that's the same thing for the dating apps.
Nice with it. You just nice with it, B.
That's just same thing with the dating apps, because I've heard, it was on another podcast, and it was like a dating expert on, he used Tinder, right? But this,
Okay.
I'm sure that would apply to any other social media platform. But basically, he was saying it wasn't a he. It was a okay. I remember the podcast. It was this girl that basically sold like a coaching service for men
Okay.
to pick up girls.
Wait, say it again. A coaching service where?
So it's a coaching service provided by this female
Okay.
to men,
Okay.
to males, to go pick up females.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that okay. I remember. So basically, they were saying how, like, girls on social media apps, they can they'll never run out of demand, even if they're very unattractive. Like someone is willing to do something.
I agree.
Right. But on
the caveat, but go ahead.
On the flip side, because girls know, like what I was talking about earlier, there's unlimited swipes for these super high expectations. It's like out of 100, 66%, 67% of dudes just don't get any attention. Nothing. Like almost negligent. Whereas the top 1/3 of the males are getting pretty much all the action.
Mm-hmm.
So you might be on the upper, 1/3 of that thing that might increase your you actually statistically might be increasing your odds. I agree with that. But then for the lower people, that's I guess not so fortunate in their picture taking abilities or description writing abilities. Like they might actually have a better chance going up to someone and being spontaneous, and that thrill of meeting someone in person. They might have a better chance of doing that.
Okay.
And then this sounds kind of bad, but like, if you meet someone out in public in a night, in a nightlife setting, like a lot of times, like they're both drunk, and it might make it easier for them to like approach girls, and girls, it might be easier for them to, So I don't want to say just increasing your odds or just increasing the number of people you can meet leads to more relationships, because in terms of, meeting someone in person or meeting someone online, we were going off the notion that it's going to lead to a relationship.
Yeah.
And you don't need many people today. You just need one.
What do you mean? Like to start a relationship?
Yeah. To get in a relationship and to marry, you just need one. So it doesn't matter if you talk to 1,000 girls or one girl. If you build on that relationship, it might work out with the one girl. Whereas 1,000 girls, that's a lot of, like, during the season, like, since you're swiping and matching with so many girls, it's like you're like running a whole side hustle, talking to like 7 different girls, like managing the schedule, like, hey, let's do blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, in your head that, like, I feel like the worth on the individual, female becomes less from your perspective because you're talking to so many girls.
And
So I don't know. Again, I'm not arguing like, I think both, I can see sides of both what I said and what you said, depending on the person.
yeah, of
So,
course.
it can be argued either way, but I'm just trying to wrestle with, for the ultimate goal of getting married, or I guess being in a relationship from these apps, trying to see which one will be better for that particular case.
Okay.
Which even that particular case has so many nuances.
Yeah.
For person to person, so you can't really.
It does. And so right, in talking about trying to pursue a relationship, especially from the female perspective, I know a big thing is safety, or like you are who you really say you are. Which again, this is a kind of an oxymoron, because in person you get to actually see the person, see what they look like, can't hide it, got it. But online, and I mean, that person could lie about their name, but online, especially, a lot of these sites or apps have verification where you have to verify yourself. So now you're proving you are who you say you are. So that kind of gives a level of safety or security, or you can look them up. Whereas it might take a while in person, to like get somebody's first name or your last name, or be able to look them up. So I think, oddly enough, where this wasn't the case years ago, like meeting somebody online, now with the verification message can give an element of like put you at ease, or have an aspect of safety, I guess.
What's the verification process though?
Take pictures, or I know one app was like take a video, and of the video it'll compare to your profile pictures and make sure like what you're posting is like.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty legit.
I mean, they can still be a sketchy person, but at least on the math, at least on, I guess, not trying to catfish.
Right. It helps.
Okay, I can see that. See that, because like I was thinking, like this, going to real estate real quick. Like, I have a lot of Airbnb guests that come through, and they're all certified. You have to be certified.
Yep.
But then the certification process is like upload your license. Like everyone has a license.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't really mean anything. But then, yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. It does help with. It prevents that person from trying to be someone else.
Yeah.
If the verification process, like what you said, with a picture, comparison, or
right.
I see that.
So yeah, just and right, those super small things. There's probably a way around it. I'm sure you can. I don't know, take video of somebody else, but it is a deterrent, and it increases the odds of that person being who they are. And you also talked about something about somebody that maybe if they're quirky or shy, or in person, you said they can go off the thrill of like meeting somebody, but conversely, maybe they're not in that top 1/3 you said, or whatever. But even still, like being online may help them overcome the shyness of the anxiety of meeting somebody in person, or the shyness, because a lot of it, we've been talking a lot on like the initial meeting, like evaluating somebody's profile, or like meeting them in person. But I think a lot of what leads to these starting an actual relationship is like the communication, like how you guys communicate over a period of time, which, you meet somebody in person, you exchange numbers, then you start to communicate and or hang out. But the app or site, whatever, is just a start that I think can easily facilitate you getting the number. And that's when you actually get to know the person. You're not going to get to know the profile site. So it's just a way to, and still what you said is true, like, sure, the upper 1/3 or whatever the stat is, maybe only get to the getting a number or email or further communication part. I don't know. But I think it's really just if you can get to that next step after the app or the site, and then once you get to talk. So I think the apps, ultimately what I'm getting at, is do a good job bridging the gap, allowing people to have more opportunities to get to talk to people.
Yeah, okay.
Without random,
if the apps help someone that's really shy get over that hump, like I'm all for it.
Or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And then, it's like and then to counter that, the one thing I appreciate about meeting someone in person is, like what I said, you don't have to always meet them to pick someone up. Like you may know that person for a little bit from like your hobby group, or friend group, and that shyness maybe it's not as prevalent as if they're going up to a stranger.
Which honestly, I think that's ideal But again, this is to acknowledge the fact that I think digital dating is more, and everybody knows it's around. Like it's definitely a thing. Nobody's saying people don't know about. Like everybody knows about it. But I think when you really dissect it, there's some aspects of it that could really be useful or really be leveraged for like a solid relationship. As I'm experiencing myself, and a culminating point I want to make is I think the best case scenario for people that are in the dating scene is, hey, go out when you can, meet some people in real life. But if you have an app or two or you're a member of a site and you can supplement what you do in real life, like now you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. You might be with somebody out, out wherever, but I got a busy month. I can't really make it out this month. So, I'm going to fall back on these apps. And then you can get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like, hey, you should only go out, or like, hey, don't go out. Like, just stick to the apps will be good. No, which as most things we talk about, it's a hybrid method where if you can capitalize on both, I think that the apps will really like help bridge the gap.
Yeah. I was thinking about when we first opened up the podcast, I guess how often these dating apps are used to actually, find a potential partner and, keep going on the relationship side. And I was just thinking about, in my head, I was trying to think, do people today, what's their idea of meeting someone online? Because I feel like every single year, like maybe 20 years ago, like 90% of the people met in person.
Right.
And as the years shift, it's going to go more and more and more towards the online dating and meeting them in person there. I don't know at what point does it stabilize, or it's never going to be, it's never going to be one way or the other.
Yeah.
As long as technology exists. But then I'm thinking about their perception, like how I perceive what people thinking about the online dating scene. Because I'm thinking right now, I know one family member and two close friends that, they're all married. I'm friends with the guys, so their wife, they met on their dating app, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you say, oh, like how did you meet? They have like they'll obviously tell you because it's not like an embarrassing thing to meet online anymore. But then they tell you like, oh, like it was Tinder, or like, oh, it was an online dating app. So I think the traditional narrative is still to meet your spouse in person, but then it's becoming more of a norm to, not meet them in person. And that's what I was trying to figure out at first. I couldn't really figure out what the general population's norm is.
Yeah. Like you said, what happens more often, or what people want to happen, like what people
what they want, their ideal situation.
Got you.
And obviously I think ideally, in air quotes, it is better, again in air quotes, to meet someone in person, because that's more of the natural way, I guess.
Right.
But then it's like, I feel like 10 years ago they wouldn't have, or maybe not even 10 years ago, but like I know certain people, they try to hide the fact that they met online.
And why?
We met because it was like looked down upon.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. It's no longer like, it doesn't have to be. Why? It's just another method. Yeah. And that's exactly it, dude.
And I like, it doesn't like, I feel like a narrative would have shifted much quicker. If a lot of, I'll say pretty much the guys, like they're after the girls to pretty much have sex and move on. I feel like that's a lot of like the Tinder, I guess, like the Tinder image is like you're just trying to do a hookup.
Yeah. And
I feel like that narrative gets passed around public more often than, people actually meeting on the sites.
Oh, 100%.
And then, it may not be as talked about as much. So maybe, it's all narrative driven. And then maybe it's not as bad to, meet them online. Now I'm thinking about it like that. But
hey, if y'all don't got one, sign up, get on these apps. You never know. You never know what might be out there. You might be missing out on your Tinderella. She could be out there.
The
Or-
Tinderella, did you make
know
that
what
up
the-
or?
No, people been saying.
Oh, really?
I don't know what the equivalent of Tinderella for a guy would be, or
Hmm.
Prince Charm Tinder. I don't know, but
Prince Ginger.
let's not go with that. But yeah, I mean, I do think there's some inherent benefits. Sure, I will say like nothing quite like replaces meeting somebody, you know, good old fashioned way, out and about, whatever. But to say that to the point you said, the story where it's like, oh, we just met on Tinder, like it doesn't need to be minimized. Like be proud of, like it's okay, it's valid, it doesn't diminish how you met them. Like you still got to know each other. Like it's cool.
What about on the marriage side?
What about-
Because I mean, like, I understand that these dating apps can be used for a variety of reasons: hookups, a really short-term relationship, long-term relationship, being friends, finding hobby groups. I don't know. But I thought it was kind of interesting. I did a little quick study or quick Google search on, you know, like the statistics on marriage success rates on online dating versus, you know, traditional dating, I guess.
Great to look at, yeah.
And there wasn't too much on them. And I mean, it makes sense, right? Because like dating online and, you know, leading into marriage, like that's like a relatively recent
Kind of
thing.
yeah.
I would say, like, obviously, like it blew up obviously during COVID, just like anything, everything that blew up during COVID. So if this online dating thing in the masses as a general viable option became popular thing 15 years ago, then it's not even 15, it's more like 10. You know, you're not going to have too much data on long-term marriage data. But in the, you know, many articles that I could still find on Google, I found a common trend where 3 of the article pretty much like all did their own study and then found very similar a statistic, which is 2 things. And one is the online dating couple that led to marriage. They said that they have a less satisfied marriage. So the partners are both less satisfied, but they do claim they're more stable. And I was like, I don't exactly know what stable means, but on just take it one step further, the national divorce rate was about like 40 or something like that when I looked it up. But on the online dating people, it was more in like the upper teens. So if you think about it, like if you round those numbers, you can say it's like 2 to 1. It's like 50% less likely to get into the divorce, but then they claim that they're less satisfied in a traditional marriage. So literally there's pro and a con in that study right there.
Oh, that's good. That's a good breakdown. And we talked about at the beginning, I think, you know, in person, you get to evaluate the chemistry a little bit more, the natural organic chemistry, which I think plays a big piece in a relationship. However, online, you might be able to, at least early on, evaluate the compatibility. So hearing that the online dating are less, satisfying, but more stable, to me, that sounds like less satisfying, right? Like we don't have as much chemistry, but it's stable. We're more compatible, which is ironic because like that's kind of what we said kind of at the beginning. So that is interesting. And it's like, what do you prioritize? Like, do you want a really fun, exciting relationship that may not last as long? Or do you want something that's like, this is okay, but like this is solid? Again, super personal. I have an opinion on that.
Yeah, that's
but it's kind of sad to think like you'd hope you'd have both.
Shoot, I have to lean towards a stable and because like I don't think that sounds so bad, right? It's like, oh, like maybe there's less fire in your marriage, but then at least you're not divorced. But like divorce is I mean, I've never been through a divorce, but then that feels like a traumatizing thing.
Yeah.
Like emotionally, I mean, at the personal level and also financially, like everything is gonna take a down, like
Yeah.
downturn. So I guess being stable also gives you the opportunity to work on your relationship more, as long as you're in the game still,
Yeah.
in that marriage.
I think that's a good way to put it. Like, you can't work on it if you ain't even playing in the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I don't know how I could pick a side, but hearing you say that that's a good point.
like I keep saying this, right? Like, relationships are supposed to be worked on, and I don't know. I'm in my third year of marriage, so I may not have all the answers, right? But I view marriage as like a forever thing. Like, you made a lifelong commitment where we all say the vows when we get married, but I feel like that's not taken seriously in today's culture.
Really?
Because, like, I feel like the word divorce is thrown around so much, and it's like a natural part of our society today, right? Whereas, I mean, look at other countries. Like, there's a lot of, I mean, not a lot, but there's literally still arranged marriages that they can get divorced, but they just never do. Maybe it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Or
I don't. Yeah.
But even if the arranged marriage is cultural, like, the fact that they stay, I think it's more of their ability to work on the relationship together.
I don't know. And I wish I knew a personal couple that had arranged marriage, because it might just be like, again, out of heritage or tradition, pride. Like, they may not be working on it, but they're just like, I have to be in this situation. So, like, this is my culture. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I feel like it might be more of that, and less like, hey, I was chosen to be here, so, like, I'm gonna work on to make it work, which I'm sure some people do, but that'd be interesting insight to get a firsthand perspective on that too.
I mean, even if it's not the arranged marriage things, like, vow is you take the vow forever.
Yeah.
But then people get literally divorced like next year.
Yeah. And
so
I think there's some things that warrant divorce, but
okay, sure.
To your point, it might be more abundant.
Okay, I get that.
Like, yeah.
I'm maybe
I
more on the
Yeah. No, I know. I think everybody gets it. For sure. Yeah. Dude, also, crazy random thought. What is the future of digital dating gonna look like? Like, picture your VR, not augmented reality. Yeah, like, you're a virtual world. You can create your own. You can create your own image. You could be a dinosaur. You could be, and you're just in this world where you see whoever. Or maybe there's like a point system. Everybody has like a number over their head of how old they are, how, like, there's like some numerical system of what you like to do, how much money you make, and you just, bro. Hey, crazy.
I mean, as VR and AR stuff gets, advanced,
dude,
it would be
sure.
It would be cool if there was like a projection that you can literally hang out in this,
right?
Not even a virtual reality, like you're sitting here, and there's like a projection of someone else. Yeah. And obviously, that's not real in person,
right?
But then you can at least, like, the voices there, the presence of them being. We can watch the same movies on the couch, even if they're not together. The scary part of it is someone can just change that,
right?
How they look,
right?
Basically, like, if you're like a 5'8" dude, just to look like you're taller, you change your height to 6'3". And then that'll be scary and crazy, and there's gonna be a lot of But then I could see that, like, in 20, 30 years, it's gonna be a whole completely different scene.
Insane. Which is why I think there's always an element of, like, in person, even if you don't meet in person, like, meet online, whatever. You gotta, before you don't have to, but, like, make it serious. Like, it would be wise, I think, to, like, meet in person. But also, and this plays in favor of me actually meeting in person. I gotta think there's gonna be, like, psychological or social effects to, sure, dating online, but then if you extrapolate that to, like you said, AR or VR, like, if you're never really talking to people, or you kind of, all of your, like, human interaction skills kind of dissolve over time. Like, you're gonna meet somebody and be like, if you want to go back home and we can, like, meet up on, you know what I mean? Like, That's also scary. We could go down so many rabbit holes with that, but
because they have like the couples. Shoot, there's a movie about it. I forgot which one it was.
There's
But basically, they're at this dinner table, and then it's their like, the second anniversary, and they're just both on their phones at their dinner table, and then the girl was just like taking a picture of the dinner table or for the dinner and posting on Instagram. It's like, oh my god, 2nd year anniversary, love you, baby, blah 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 blah. But then as she's posting this, the entire dinner's silent, and they just go home and text each other because it's kind of wild to think about.
Yeah.
And
what's even wilder is that could be like I could see people doing that. That's scary. Like that I could actually picture some like people doing that.
I've heard there's a lot of studies being done where people don't look at each other's eyes anymore when they talk. Like when I grew up, like I was always told to look someone in the eye, not like be creepy about it, but it would be like, hey, look, there was
yeah, I was too.
So
people when they're talking to you, yeah.
I have talked to younger people, and I don't. It could be just luck of the draw, like they just happen to be that kind of people. But then they really don't look at you, and it's like you notice that it's like a weird interaction. It's like you're talking about a lot of stuff, but then like the eye contact is like more not looking, and sometimes like getting a peek, which is just like. You notice that.
Now, though, with that, are we the old generations, and maybe somebody needs to rebel against it? Maybe eye contact doesn't matter anymore, right?
Oh my God.
We just grew up like that. Like that's what we were taught. But like, does it really matter? Like, what if they're looking somewhere else, but after we're done talking, they can regurgitate everything we said with a full understanding? Maybe we don't need eye contact anymore,
dude. I don't. You might be right. I don't know. Then that's just like such a radical idea.
Yeah.
Damn, I don't even feel old, but I feel like I'm getting old by the things I say.
Scary times. Anyways, yeah, super good talk on dating, how to do it, where to do it, when to do it. I don't know. Good luck. Certainly good luck to everybody that's out there looking for your person. We wish you the best. I'm trying to get like B one day, be cuffed up permanently, but we'll all get there if that's what you desire.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always a pleasure. We'll catch y'all next week.